You're listening to the Bahai World News Service.
In this episode, we hear from Hossein Jaberi Khormouji, an auxiliary board member in Australia.
Knowing that other humans are the children of God, then really you cannot help but care about everyone else.
Hari Remala, serving in a Bahai agency at the local level.
I think many people feel this desire to be part of the movement of constructing a better world.
Shirrine Rohanian, also a member of a Bahai agency at the local level.
We can start to see also parents take steps that maybe they wouldn't take in the past.
And Vahid Saberi, member of the Board of Counsellors in Australasia.
How do we learn to consult within the family? What does it look like?
Together, they explore how communities across Australia are striving to foster unity and belonging, sharing practical examples of building cohesive, vibrant neighborhoods through educational programs that build capacity for service. From the Bahai World News Service, this is In Conversation, a collective exploration of the practical application of Bahai principles to the building of peaceful societies.
How do we create communities where there is social cohesion, where there is multi-generational interaction? And we know that the best communities are communities that are close to each other, that you can walk to each other. And we know that the way to overcome loneliness is service. So this concept of service, building a community together, interacting in an ongoing way is something that the Baha'i community has been focusing its efforts on. And there are many communities where these communities are being built, where thoughts and efforts are being given in building these vibrant neighborhoods where people are connected to each other.
I think a lot of people have really, nice friendships and they know a lot of people, but, beyond this, like, who do you call on when things get more difficult? I guess society shapes us in a manner that is quite individualistic, that my problems are my own and that I don't want to be a burden on anyone. But I think in some places this culture is beginning to change, and we're recognizing that a lot can be achieved when people cooperate together and work together and learn to consult and actually support one another's plans and goals and aspirations. In one neighborhood, there's a group of about maybe 10 families who really have been learning to speak quite freely and openly with each other and, to listen and share honestly, like, what are the challenges that they're facing, and on topics that are not usual to talk about. So challenges to do with the education of their children, how to bring up their children in a world that can be quite bewildering, challenges within the marriage and the family. But then it's not just sharing. Like, the group is so unified that they're really drawing on Baha'u'llah's teachings to provide answers, to see, okay, what can be done about these things. One example is this young man who was quite dissatisfied with his job. He didn't feel that there was any purpose. He was working long hours, and as a youth, he had contributed greatly to the progress of his community. He was working with young people, he was teaching children, but somehow, somewhere along the line, life took its course, and he was dissatisfied with the way that his life was going. And this had been weighing quite heavily on his mind, and he had to earn to support himself and his family and things. So then he brought that to this group of families, and he shared quite openly and honestly about his challenges, and the conversation was so beautiful because everyone, all these families had watched him grow up from a young age, and they were able to remind him of all his talents, all his capacities, his interests, and all the different ways that he could contribute and find meaning and purpose in his work. And so his goal then became like, I want to start my own business. But then in the meantime, I can see the community as an environment in which I can gain certain skills. It's not just where I live, but I can start to help people with whatever I know right now, whatever I can offer. I can start to build my capacity. I can start to work with people, And so in a way, it showed a path forward.
Often in Australian society, one may think, oh, I can't do this like for my community, or they might not feel empowered to based on other social factors. But then in neighborhoods where we're seeing a strong program for spiritual education for children, or a strong junior youth program, we can start to see also parents take steps that maybe they wouldn't take in the past. When there's an opportunity for a community to advance together spiritually, they can then start to think about how do they come together in other spaces to speak more about maybe the material, using spiritual principles. So then you start to see this vibrancy in a community, because they know the person next to them. Not only are they just, is it a wave or a conversation about the weather, but they're actually interacting with all elements of their life, but on a street, like people, this sense of trust, which I think in other parts of Australia at times we don't see, because people are isolated. They'll just close the door and that's it for the night and go to work the next morning. But I think when there's this deeper sense of purpose fostered, we start to see communities take charge or take ownership of their social environment.
So in one suburb in Brisbane, they realized that the junior youth group, so in this group of families, every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's many activities that happen. There's games night, they do many things together. And, they, on one of the nights, they asked the junior youth, what are some of the challenges you're seeing in your school? And they said vaping and bullying are the two main ones. And the implications of bullying has been mental health issues for many. So then because the mothers also meet on that same night, the mother said, well, let's go and approach the school and talk to this. So one of the mothers, they consulted, okay, what can we do? They go and they approach the school, and the school said, the vaping is very hard to manage and we don't know exactly what to do with it. But bullying, it's become quite rampant. And although we have a zero
bully policy.
Yeah, bully policy. Yeah. Really, there isn't much you can do to stop bullying. So then these mothers came back, and then with the next week, they started to consult on, well, what can we do? So together, they created this conversation nights. They called it Healthy Minds. And it actually attracted 40, 50 people beyond the immediate
group of families.
5 families. Yeah. So they shared this with a few, and there's wide interest. So now it's a social need. So they've had a few of these Healthy Minds. And what do? They study some simple quotes on this topic, and then they consult together. Yeah. Now they're not, pretending to be the cure for all. Yes. But then it's provided a space where families can actually talk about this, and then the junior youth are there, the youth are there, and the parents are there, and they're having collective conversation about it.
A characteristic of the communities that we're learning to build is that they're always learning. Yes. And everyone is engaged in a process of learning how to build a community. And that takes on many practical forms. For example, in these conversations that are occurring amongst different groups in a neighborhood and such, like, it is really about how we're applying spiritual teachings to our lives. And in all the dimensions of our life, in what ways do these spiritual teachings and principles find expression? And that's true for the individual, but it's also true for the various processes that unfold in a community. For example, we've spoken about the process of education. I don't think that education is seen as, just sending your child to school.
Yeah.
We're recognizing more and more that the community, the families, the extended family, and members of a community have a role to play in educating the hearts and minds of the younger generations. So even in that way, the community is a protagonist. And it's not just in terms of the development of their character and their virtues, but also very real challenges that they have with their academic education as well. We're seeing many, youth offer up their time voluntarily to helping their younger peers to learn to read better, to write, to prepare for exams, to understand the purpose of their education, to reflect on their talents, to set high and noble goals, to work towards achieving them. We're seeing also in communities various seminars for young people start to emerge. And in these seminars, they're talking about things like, what is, who are our role models? What is the true purpose of our education? What are our attitudes towards wealth, towards earning a livelihood? What are the principles that should guide it? And all of this, you can see that it is really about how these spiritual principles touch every single dimension of one's life. Yeah. And people are learning together. People are sharing their insights, they're reflecting. And then also in the pattern of community life, there are spaces for the whole community to come together. And to really evaluate, how have we been moving forward towards this vision that we have of a spiritually and materially prosperous neighborhood. And so it's a community that's dynamic. Yes. It's learning, it's moving, it's growing, and it's not static. It's not just a small group of people taking care of their own affairs, but it's one that looks outward, that brings people into the conversation, helps them to, see what the community knows and then also contribute to it.
Yeah, and learning how to practically express the principles for Baha'u'llah's revelation in life. For example, a simple example of it is, how does a family consult? Families where maybe the processes within the family has not been based on consultation. How do we learn to consult within the family? What does it look like? So all of these things are part of this process of actually learning how to express these principles.
So maybe then a question is, what motivates Baha'is and many of their friends? It's not a isolated activity that happens once a week and that's it, because that's not what a community is. It requires really the commitment and the effort of many friends every day, really for many years to create.
Yes.
So then maybe the question is, what allows for even one individual to decide to do this for others? I think at the heart of it is when we look at the life of Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha and the Guardian and the Bab, and the fact that in the example of their life, we see that not a moment of their life was dedicated to the betterment of them. It was always dedicated to the betterment of others. And really this example is one that many of us have known about all our lives, but actually takes a lot of revisiting these lives, but also the concepts and the writings that gave shape to those examples, really to even reflect on a simple quote, the betterment of the world can be achieved through pure and goodly deeds. Then if a growing number of people are understanding this and internalizing it, then you actually don't have a choice but to commit your life to the betterment of others. So even as a father, you have so much love for your children. So once you have children, really everything in your life becomes about others. But in the context of our life, as a result of our love for God and knowing that other humans are the children of God, then really you cannot help but care about everyone else. But that requires a lot of commitment to show this love on a daily basis. And to bring others to also have this similar love for others. And that cannot be done without creating some kind of a relationship between the individual and God. Because the manifestation of love that I have for you is really a manifestation of my love for God and God for humanity.
And maybe this deep commitment and conviction that the life well lived is a life of service. It's a life of sacrifice. There is a statement from Abdul Bahai. He says, through our life of service and sacrifice, we should light a candle that will shed its light throughout all times. So this is this commitment that really we are here for that purpose. That's the cause of serving the well-being of humanity. So maybe that's also what drives a lot of, not just Baha'is, but also those who share this vision
The
of
well-wishers
service.
of humanity.
Yes, or well-wishers of humanity, and who partner with Baha'is, and we partner with them in changing society.
Yeah, all of these elements are like creating a framework, a conceptual framework in which we are then able to advance in our efforts. Like, as individuals, these principles, nobility of man, attraction to beauty, all of these other principles are guiding our efforts through this conceptual framework of how we see the world, how we're interacting with people. So then naturally it shapes our actions and what we do. And it also aligns with this idea of, what my manifestation of love for one is this manifestation of love for God, like you said.
I think people are finding in Baha'u'llah's teachings and in communities that are being created on the basis of his teachings, their highest aspirations and hopes. This is the period of time, the age in which the humanity is maturing, you know, and the fruit of that is that the oneness of humankind needs to be established. And as humanity is leaving its ways of its own childhood behind, ways of conflict and such, I think many people feel this desire to be part of the movement of constructing a better world.
And have this sense of hope and optimism in humanity's darkest period of its darkest time. This statement of Baha'u'llah that this ruinous wars, these fruitless strives will pass and the most great peace will come. This sense of optimism and hope, which is a key element of building these islands of solace and havens of refuge for humanity, are so important.
You've been listening to In Conversation, a podcast series from the Baha'i World News Service. For more podcasts and stories, visit bwns.org.